Shalom, shalom. This week's Parsha in Israel is Parshat Shelach. In Chutz La'aretz, the rest of the world, they're up to Behalotecha. And I would like to open by talking about the sin of the spies in Parshat Shelach. And the point that I'm going to make, nevertheless, is pertinent to everybody else and what they're up to. And I will say how when we get up to it. But first, the Parsha begins by God telling Moshe, Shlach l'cha anashim, to send for yourself men of great renown, to take one from each tribe, and let them latur et haaretz, to go and to travel and to see and to get information about the land. It doesn't say to spy out the land, mind you, yet. Only when it refers back to it in Parshat Devarim. But God says, send the men. And I want to talk about, many people have brought up that Shlach Lecha harkens back to Abraham, when God says to Abraham, Lech Lecha, because it's an unusual way for God to say, Shlach Lecha. And it makes us think of when God said to Abraham, Lech Lecha, go for yourself. And that's when he was telling him to go to the land that I will show you. And that what God wanted to do at that point, he did not give Abraham the land then, but he wanted him to go and to walk the land, because this is an act of acquisition. And God wanted that Abraham's children later should have this land of Israel as an inheritance. And the way to begin this, according to God, was that Abraham should go and walk the land. And when God said to Moshe that the heads of each tribe should shlach lecha, to go for themselves, it's as an acquisition. This is supposed to be the first step in them acquiring the inheritance that God had given to Abraham. And this language was telling them that this is what you're doing. Just like Abraham did it, you are doing this before you will actually inherit and acquire land like I promised to Abraham. It's supposed to be a connection. But as we know, these leaders, 10 out of the 12 of them, failed miserably. Now, they went and they came back and they started off with a very good report. And we'll talk about these 10, not counting Yehoshua ben Nun and Kalev ben Yefuna, because they did not participate in this slanderous report of land. But the other people, they came back, like Moshe told them to bring from the fruit of the land. And they came back with this, you can see the picture, they have images of it all over the place, of them holding this huge pole with a massive cluster of grapes. And they brought it back and they said that the land is good, the fruit is good. They started off with a good report. But then, of course, they said, FS, but FS meaning zero, but all this means nothing. And why they talk about, because they talked about all the different nations that were surrounding the land and that there were these giants that still lived in the land and that we were like grasshoppers in our eyes and so too we in their eyes. Now I want to take a look at this a little carefully in a way that I never heard discussed. So, everybody talks about how they saw themselves in this diminutive manner and therefore they projected how they felt about themselves to say that the people of the land felt about themselves, and they shouldn't have done that because they didn't know that that was the case. I want to say something else. What I want to say is, of course that's true, but think about it for a minute. Think about the fact that they went, and if they're saying that they appeared this way in their eyes, that means that they were seen. That means that they weren't there spying out the land. They were there touring the land and eating and gathering fruits and seeing things, it's like a mini vacation of a pilot trip that they were doing. And the fact that the giants saw them and did not smash them to smithereens, if they were like 10 teeny little, or 12 teeny little men and these giants were there, what should the giants have done if they were an actual threat? They could have easily killed them and sent them back on a stick to the rest of the nation and said, don't even try and conquer us. So the fact alone that they were seen by these inhabitants of the land of great stature, who were definitely stronger than they were, didn't even, couldn't maybe or wouldn't kill them either way, was a sign already that they should have seen loud and clear. I mean, look at this. They're letting you walk in and out with no problem. They know that you're about to. There was Everybody knew about this nation who had fought the other nations and the kings and that God split the Yam Suf. Everybody knew all of this already. They knew who they were. They knew that they were coming to inherit the land, and yet they let them come and go. They didn't touch them. That alone is miraculous. And so for them to come back and to be such ingrates, and not to say at that moment, oh my gosh, listen what happened, people, Moshe, we were there, we were teeny, and they just let us come and go, and they let us take their fruit. They saw them coming with these, they must have been conspicuous walking around with these two huge poles and taking the fruit of the land, and they let us come and go, and it wasn't a problem. This is going to be a cinch. They're afraid of us. We're going to get the land with no problem. That's what they should have said. That's what they should have seen. And the fact that they didn't was just an ungrateful attitude that led to their own demise. Self-fulfilling prophecies are just abundant in the Bible, and the fact that they thought that they couldn't led them to not doing it and not going in. And that's the saddest part of the whole story. And I think, this ungrateful nature, we saw it also last week in Behalotecha when they complained about leaving, that they didn't have all these food items that they had in Egypt. And they're complaining when here God sustained them with manna from the heaven and with the slab, whatever they wanted. They had meat, they had bread, they had conditions that nobody could last. If they didn't have, God didn't provide for them the way he did, nobody would last 40 years in the desert. It was an obvious miracle. And instead of saying, wow, thank you so much for giving us a miraculous miraculous existence that we would never have anywhere else. And can we imagine if this is what God gave us in the desert, what would be in our own land? It's just sad. It's really, really sad. And people tend to do this. People have abundant blessing in their life, and then they focus on what they don't have. And you know what happens when you have abundant blessing and you focus on the things that you don't have? You lose the blessings that you had. And anything that you fear, that you complain, this is going to lead to this, you cause it to happen yourself. And that's really, really sad. If we want blessing, we have to be positive. Look at everything. Look at the positive in everything. Look at your blessings. Count them. See the silver lining when something goes wrong. See what you can learn, what you can take. And that will incur more blessing. And that positive attitude will propel you to greater heights. If you believe in yourself, you can do it. And God says, whichever way you want to go in, I will help you. That means you have to be a part of it and believe it. Believe in yourself that you can do it. Believe God will assist you. And if you do have that, wow, what could happen? What could happen for you in the end? It'd be truly miraculous. I've seen this in my own life. I made Aliyah, and I don't know how it was able to happen. Really, with my situation was very difficult, but thank God I wanted to so badly, and God helped me. Look, I just want everybody to have that blessing in their life. Believe in when you want to do something that's really good and really right and really true, and you have good motives. Look at your blessings, look at your strengths, look at everything you have that could be an asset, and focus on those things. And have many blessings in your life. With that, I wish you all very, very good, warm, hearty Shabbat Shalom.